How do you know if you're ready to start your own healing journey? This is one thing that I have looked back on over my years of being in this healing world for a very long time now, and also looking back over my journey and what really brought me to the place where I was ready to start taking a really good look at myself. And just to clarify, this journey has continued on for me and is continuing on right now as we speak. Um, there's always this inner sense inside of me and those who come and see me for change. So let's back it up to the beginning of how this really came to pass for me. Because I remember thinking there has to be something more to life. And that was kind of the first time where I had really started questioning what life was about, why I was here, what was going on. I was really having this inner awakening, and I was involved in religious in the church, religious. I had been part of the Mormon church, the LDS church, my whole life, and I was still very much part of that. And I remember this came one day when I was sitting in church with my four little kids, and they're squirming around. And I remember thinking, why am I here? And what am I doing? Because I had never really asked myself that question. And that literally was a changing day for me. That was the moment that I really started waking up, stopped doing what everybody just told me I had to do, and I really started seeking out my own life, my own answers, my own what worked for me, not what worked for everybody else, but what worked for me. And so I remembered that moment very well. And just by asking that question, it started a whole new life for me. Now, it didn't happen in that day, it didn't happen in that moment, but it was in that moment that everything shifted for me. People came into my life. I learned new things. I saw different things. I started really learning new things about myself. And it was just in the asking of the question that it completely changed everything in my life. And so that really was the beginning of the awakening for me. And then once I started on this journey of asking myself, what is this all about? What does this mean to me? I remember I went on a quest. I decided that I was going to really look at my religious views. Is this what I wanted for myself and my kids in my life? And I studied, and I remember in the church they're telling you, if you just study, if you'll just pray and ask, you will know without a shadow of a doubt that that it was for you. That was what they would tell us, was you would know that it was for you. And the thing that I realized during that time is I realized it wasn't for me. And that kind of scared me because that's the first time I'd really got my own answers on, you know, is this for you? Is this what you want to spend your time doing? I realized the more I studied, I didn't want to be part of that anymore. And so there were lots of things. There were lots of reasons. I had people ask me, well, why did you decide that? There were many reasons that I decided not to be part of it. But a lot of it, the more I got into the religious context of it, there were many contradictions. There were many things that were just going on inside of there that I just didn't want to be part of anymore. And it just didn't feel like it was my soul's mission. And so I remember walking away from a religion that I had been raised in, that I had been told that if we did walk away, we were going to hell. But I remember walking away confidently, knowing that, you know what, there's something else for me out there. And then I remember looking at religion as a whole. This was part of my waking up. To me, when we start questioning, when we start asking, this is part of your waking up. There's a reason that you're asking these questions. There's a reason that you are on this quest. And I remember looking at religion as a whole and decided that religion as a whole was not what I wanted to do either. The more I studied religion, the more I looked at religion, it seemed very fear-based to me. And everything that I was looking and feeling and it didn't connect with what I looked to be as a loving God, as someone who wanted, for success for us. And so I decided to walk away from religion as a whole. And then I started looking at, well, if it's not religion, then what is it? What is it then? And so this is where I really started diving into spirituality and realizing that, God wasn't this person to me anymore. God was an energy, God was a feeling, God was love. And we were all that energy, we were all that love. And so then I really started diving into spirituality. And oh my gosh, you mean I can make my own decisions? You mean that there isn't a God that's telling me that I have to do this or do that. And if I don't, then I'm going to hell. There was just this whole other world out there that started opening up to me. And I remember for the first time feeling like I was home. That felt like home to me. That felt like just something very different. I always felt in the religious world that, it was never going to be good enough. I was never going to add up. It was never going to be enough. No matter how much we did, it was never going to be enough. And I remember for the first time in my life feeling like, oh my gosh, that wasn't true. And we are enough. And it wasn't about what we did. It was just because we are. We are that love. And so this really was the beginning, even though I say it started back on that day. This moment was the beginning for me of a whole new life, a whole new way of allowing myself to step out of all the rules and that I thought I had to live under. I thought I had to live under those rules. And I realized those rules were never placed on me by a God. They were placed on me by these man-made beliefs that we have, that this is the way that we have to live, or this is the way that we have to do. And so when you start questioning life, there is a reason. The minute I found spirituality is the minute that I found intuitive healing. It's the minute that I found all of these other things as well, when I opened up to these new possibilities of energy flowing through us, of having the energy, of being able to move energy, being able to, not so much manipulate it, but change the things in our lives and do things differently in our lives, that we had more control than what I ever even knew that I had. Like, there were just so many things that blossomed out of this one beautiful thing for me. And my life has completely changed and will never be the same. There is no going back. To me, once you discover this energy, once you feel that energy, the more I started diving in and realizing that I had a lot of childhood traumas that need to be looked at and taken care of. And today I still keep finding a few more things, because there's always that room for growth. There's always, and it's not a bad thing. It's not bad. It's just room for growth. It's just room for learning. It's just room for becoming the better version of me every day. And we can do that inside of healing. We can do that inside of personal development. Anytime we decide to take on these challenges, or what we perceive to be our challenges. One of my biggest challenges is, and for everybody that I work with, is really our humanness. We get stuck in our own way so much. We have this idea of being stuck and not being able to make our own decisions, not being able to do the things that we want. And that simply isn't true, because we have the right to make whatever choices we want. It's our humanness that says, if I do that, I'm going to be judged. If I do that, that means I might be abandoned. If I do this, that might be this problem. And we get in our own way, literally holding ourselves back from living the best version of ourselves. I just started teaching my VIP program again this year. And one of my students in there said, that from the moment that she signed up, that she became terrified, that she was scared. And we talked about it in the first class. And I said, this is simply your humanness going, why are you changing? Why would you want to change everything? We know this life over here. Why would you mess it up? And my answer is, because you can become the better version of yourself. The more we let go, the more we relax into life, the more we calm our nervous system, the more we let go of all the fears that we have been handed and taught to believe. We live in this fear-based society, and we think that all these fears are going to happen to us. Well, guess what? We create those things for ourselves in our lives. And when we step out of that and realize, what kind of life do I want to create? And we start creating that life. This is when everything changes for us. This is when your life completely transforms. I've watched this happen for myself. I actually just got off a call where I did an interview for a book. And you'll hear all about it later, but it was really interesting to look back over the last 3 years of my life and how much has changed for me in the last 3 years of my life, because my life has completely transformed health-wise in the last 3 years. And I remember not too many years ago thinking that I was a failure as a healer because I couldn't get this part of my life under control. I was struggling with my health. I was struggling with a thyroid condition. I was struggling with things because of that, the thyroid condition that hadn't been treated. I was struggling with all these aspects of my health. And today, as I was doing this interview and I was talking about the transformation in my health and wellness over the last 3 years, I kind of had to step back in awe of all of the amazing things that have happened. And I wouldn't wish my health journey upon anybody. But because I discovered it, not only have I changed my life, I've changed my kids' lives, and I've changed the lives of many, many of my clients who have been able to go and get the help that they need. So it's pretty impressive. It's pretty phenomenal. Sometimes what we think are our biggest weaknesses, are actually our best strengths. But we don't look at it that way, and we think that something is wrong, and we think that we need to fix it, and that we're broken. And, but when we can look at these things and go, oh my gosh, you know what? I really have made a lot of progress. And sometimes we have to take the time to stop and look at that. And those things that we are most afraid of, just like my VIP client that I was just telling you about, are what are going to be our biggest phenomenal successes. So if you are someone who is thinking, oh my gosh, you know what? If she can have these changes, I've been thinking those things, I've been feeling those things. Let's chat, let's work together, and let's get you moving so that you can be talking to your friends, or maybe here out on social media, telling everybody what an amazing transformation that you have had. This is the one thing I love about the work that I do, is watching my clients create these beautiful transformations, because I create the space and I help them do it, but they create that transformation, and you can do it too. You can absolutely do it too. You can create that transformation for yourself, and you can look back in 6 months, a year, 3 years, and go, holy shit, what an amazing change. When I even think about, I've had many changes over the last several years now, my health being one of the biggest ones, but I even doing the healing work that I have done and the changes that have happened in my life, the decisions that I've made differently because of the healing work that I've done, the things that I've been able to let go, and really letting go of that fear in my life and going, okay, here we are. This is what we're going to do, and not stopping because I'm afraid, not stopping because things maybe didn't work out like I wanted them to, or how I thought they were going to work out. We're really tapping into this power that we all have on the inside, and letting that fear go, and realizing there's a reason for everything. There's a reason for everything that happens. And what we choose to do with it is up to us. What you choose to do with your life, with your awakening moments. Because the truth is, a lot of people get scared when it comes to waking up. And they get scared because it looks very different than what our outer world looks like. And it gets scary because it's the unknown. And your ego mind will talk you out of that every single time. It will make excuses on why you can't do it. It will tell you that you can't because whatever reasons that it comes up with. Because your mind does not want you to change. Your mind does not want you to think about things differently. Most people will never cross that hump because it is the unknown, and they don't understand it. They don't understand how the mind works. But when you get it, this is not your intuition telling you not to do it. This is your mind saying, why the hell would you change? Why would you do that? Even if you are in misery, our minds will live in misery before it will change and find a different heaven. This is proven. It will let you live in misery. It wants you to live in that misery because it knows that misery, and it understands that misery, and it knows what to expect. And the moment that you understand that and realize that your uncomfortableness is when you are growing, is when you will start to make the changes that you need to do. But you have to understand how this works and why it works that way. Your mind's just here to keep you safe. There was a time when it needed to do that. You're going to be eaten by the lions and tigers. There were all sorts of things going on. Most of us do not have those fears in our lives today. We have different fears. We have different things that we get fed on social media and in life. But true healing to me comes when we let those fears go, We let the fear of abandonment go. We let the fear of change go. We let these fears go and really tap into, what is my intuition telling me to do? What is my next step? You know, society has taught us a lot of things are right and wrong, good or bad. Is that really true? You know, that's one thing that I learned with leaving the church. Is that really true? Is that really how this is? And for me, the answer was no. Maybe for someone else, the answer is yes. But for me, the answer was no. That is not how I see God. That is not how I see that beautiful being in my life. That is not, I don't even see him as a being anymore. To me, it's just energy. It is just love. You know, we can bring that Christ like love into our lives every single day. We can bring the love of God. We are that love. We can have that in our heart every single day. It doesn't come from a place or being associated with a certain group. It just is. And when we understand that concept and understand that's how we grow and that's how we change, we can tap into that and get strength that we didn't even know existed. This is a beautiful topic. I hope you've enjoyed today's topic. I can't wait to see you on the next video. If you've enjoyed this, please share with a friend, like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you get notifications so you'll know when we come out with new videos. So I'm grateful to have you here. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What do you think about all this? And I would love to hear what you think. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.